Chapter 1139. Before Gu Xingyin could say anything, Cece exploded. What are you guys talking about? You're shamelessly coveting Lindsay, and now you're playing the blame game? Who's the shameless one? Changru also spoke, but she wasn't as direct as Cece. Striking first to gain the upper hand is also her ability. If you have the ability, can you also make such a man only have eyes for you? If you don't have the ability, then shut up. The girl had a bad temper and started arguing with the two of them on the spot. The commotion from this corner quickly attracted the attention of the other students. The boy who was singing also turned off the microphone and music and came over to ask what was going on. Cece was quick to speak and told them what had happened in a few words. For a moment, many people looked at the girls with subtle expressions. In this world, the world laughed at the poor and not at the prostitutes. It wasn't a new thing for girls to want to hook up with a rich husband and marry into a wealthy family. However, it was a little too much for these people to poach someone in front of the real deal. Not to mention that they were all high school classmates. Seeing that everyone didn't seem to be on her side, the girl couldn't help but say loudly, "What? Did I say something wrong? Everyone knows that Zhong Zhanghuan isn't Lindsay's girlfriend yet. What kind of person am I trying to poach? If Zhong Zhanghuan doesn't like someone, why can't others woo her? Also, what did I say wrong? If Zhong Zhanghuan hadn't chased after Lindsay for 2 years, would he still be obsessed with her? And all of you, aren't you just trying to avoid harm? If Zhong Zhanghuan wasn't the person Lindsay liked today, would all of you still try to curry favor with her and speak up for her?" The room was silent, and only the girl's shrill voice could be heard echoing in the room. After the girl finished speaking, she saw that no one spoke and was a little smug. "What? I hit the nail on the head and you can't refute it. You're thinking too much." The man who organized this event stood up. He looked at the girl with disdain. "It's not that everyone can't refute it, but they're stunned by your broken worldview." This man was also a rich second-generation heir. He was the one who organized this gathering. Zhanghuan isn't Lindsay's girlfriend, because Zhanghuan never accepted Lindsay's confession. If you wanted to pursue Lindsay, no one would say anything about it. But out of so many people, you had to ask Zhanghuan. Even if you are a girl, I can only say that your behavior is indeed shameless. The girl's face paled. The man didn't stop talking because of that. Neither of us is trying to please the other. We don't belong to the same circle, and we don't have a strong relationship with each other. Student, don't think that everyone is as snobbish as you. Lastly, don't you know Zhanghuan's identity? Someone who won the AD Best New Designer Award. Do you know who the designers who won this award are now? They are all targets that all the major luxury brands are fighting to hire. Not to mention the future. Even now, if Zhanghuan casually accepts an appointment with any brand, the remuneration will start from 7 figures. He looked at the girl's widening eyes and smiled evilly. By the way, you might not understand such a high-end thing. Then you should have heard of the Zhong Group, right? Zhanghuan is the only heir of the Zhong Group. He placed extra emphasis on the word only. Chapter 1140. Not to mention the girl who had spoken earlier. Even the other students in the class didn't know Zhong Zhanghuan's true identity. Zhong Zhanghuan had never talked about her family background. Although she was dressed fashionably in high school, they guessed that her family background wasn't bad. However, her family background wasn't bad. Compared to the heir of the Zhong Corporation, it was like heaven and earth. Just as the male student who had organized the party had said, most of the students present had never been in contact with the fashion industry. They didn't know what the AD Design Award was, but they didn't know what it was exactly. However, the Zhong Corporation was different. It was one of the leading enterprises in the city, and could be ranked in the top 10 in the entire province. It went without saying what it meant to be the only heir of such a corporation. Those students who had thought that Zhong Zhanghuan was lucky to have hooked up with a diamond tycoon like Lindsay had completely changed their minds. Why would Zhong Zhanghuan need to find a tycoon? She herself was a huge gold mine. When the girl heard this, her face turned pale. She looked at Gu Xingyin in disbelief. People like her couldn't understand why someone with such good conditions would keep such a low profile. There was another reason why she was so afraid. She was now working in a subsidiary company of the Zhong Corporation. The employees of the Zhong Corporation had always been treated very well. This girl had put in a lot of effort to get into that company. Zhong Zhanghuan should be the boss of her boss's boss. As the young master of the main company, if Zhong Zhanghuan wanted her to leave, it would be a piece of cake. The more the girl thought about it, the paler her face became. She didn't know what terrible things she was thinking about. But before anyone could say anything, she actually burst into tears. Gu Xingyin, the male student who spoke. The onlookers. The girl cried as she said to Gu Xingyin, "I'm sorry, Miss Zhong. I didn't know your identity. I hope you can forgive me for offending you." The door of the private room opened with a click, diverting everyone's attention. Lindsay met everyone's gaze with a strange expression. She saw Gu Xingyin standing in front of a crying girl. She thought something had happened to her, so she hurried to her side. "Are you okay? What's wrong? What happened?" As for the girl who was still crying, Lindsay didn't even look at her. Gu Xingyin shook her head. "Nothing," she said to the girl. "You should apologize to Zhong Zhanghuan, not the young lady of the Zhong group." The girl's face turned pale, and she continued to cry. Gu Xingyin could tell what she was thinking just by looking at her expression. "Don't cry. I didn't say I was going to do anything to you. It's a rare class reunion. Don't ruin everyone's mood," she said with a frown. The girl responded in a low voice. Chapter 1141. Lindsay sat in the private room and accompanied her for a while. Everyone watched as he busied himself with drinks, fruits, and things for Gu Xingyin. Only when he was facing Gu Xingyin did he not look like a cold general manager at all. Instead, he was a man who wholeheartedly tried to please his girlfriend. Many girls were extremely envious of Gu Xingyin. Look at her boyfriend. He was handsome, rich, and most importantly he was so good to her. But on second thought, they didn't have Zhong Zhanghuan's persistence in giving up everything to pursue a man. They didn't have Zhong Zhanghuan's talent in design. They didn't have her status as the only heir of the Zhong Corporation. Thinking about it this way, since they were so much worse than him, what right did they have to be jealous of him? Perhaps it was because Lindsay's affections were too obvious that even Cece, who was obviously on Gu Xingyin's side at the beginning, wavered. When they left, Cece even tugged at Gu Xingyin and said that there weren't many men who could treat their girlfriends as well as Lindsay, not to mention that he was so well off. Cece said, "Zhanghuan, don't throw a tantrum or anything. That's enough. Otherwise, it wouldn't be good if his heart really turned cold." Gu Xingyin only listened and didn't say anything. How long had it been since Lindsay? It hadn't even been a month, and she was afraid that his heart would turn cold? Back then, she had pursued him for 2 whole years. Lindsay's devotion to her was called affection. Was Zhong Zhanghuan's 2 years really so worthless? When Changru left, she specially came to look for Gu Xingyin. Don't agree to him too easily, Zhanghuan. Men would never cherish things that were too easy to obtain. You've done so much for him in those 2 years, and put on airs. Zhanghuan, you're a precious girl. You have to be reserved. Take yourself seriously. That's more important than anything else. Just based on these 2 sentences, Gu Xingyin felt that this girl could be befriended. As expected, Gu Xingyin thought to herself, Changru is still very rational when she's normal. He did not know why she was so paranoid in the original plot. At the entrance of the first floor, Gu Xingyin saw a car stop in front of Changru. Then a very beautiful Caucasian girl got out of the car. She took the bag from Changru, and the 2 of them kissed face to face before Changru got into the car. Gu Xingyin watched the car drive away. None of the students present felt that the 2 of them were abnormal. There was even a classmate who sighed with emotion. The class leader's relationship with her roommate is really good. I heard that her roommate is her boss who was transferred from the head office. TSK. Why can't I find such a good roommate? Gu Xingyin smiled and said nothing. She said goodbye to everyone, rejected Lindsay's request to send her home, and drove home by herself. Half a year passed. Lindsay still couldn't catch up to Zhong Zhanghuan. However, everyone in the city's business circle knew that the general manager of the Lin Corporation was madly infatuated with the eldest daughter of the Zhong family, the famous designer in the country, Miss Zhong Zhanghuan. The general manager of the Lin Corporation, Lindsay, gave everyone the impression that he was like a piece of ice that could not be heated. Only when he pursued Zhong Zhanghuan did he seem like a passionate fire. However, the eldest daughter of the Zhong family was like a high and mighty flower. Even someone like the general manager of the Lin Corporation could not win the heart of a beauty. There were even busybodies who bet on whether the general manager of the Lin Corporation could win the beauty's heart in the end. If he could, how long would it take? All of this, in front of everyone, in front of the media, I want to say to him. She looked in the direction of Lindsay. Linza, thank you. Also, I love you. The lights shone in Lindsay's direction, and his figure appeared on the big screen. Under the witness of all the guests, the handsome Oriental man had a smile on his face, and his eyes were as warm as spring water in March. I love you too, Zhanghuan. All the employees were secretly giving their blessings, hoping that the general manager's wife would get pregnant soon. If the young master was born, and the general manager was happy, it was not impossible for the bonus to be doubled. He had thought that since the general manager of the Lin Corporation had pursued his wife so crazily before they got married, he would restrain himself a little after they got married. That was what most people thought. After all, he was a man. Everyone knew that. But those people were too naive, because after the two of them got married, Lindsay became even more clingy to his wife. Moreover, Lindsay even found the most dignified reason for himself. I'm clingy to my own wife. Do you have a problem with that? If you have a problem with that, go find one yourself. Chapter 1147. Jiang Ling. Was a disciple of a Taoist sect in hell near Lanling. She was born with Heaven's Eye, and was nurtured by the sect since she was young. She was taught how to kill demons and monsters. In fact, this was also the mission of countless Taoist sections. After all, there were very few friendly ghosts in Lanling. Most ghosts relied on absorbing the vitality of humans to maintain their bodies. There were even some evil ghosts that specialized in killing ordinary people. Generally speaking, in the eyes of humans, ghosts and monsters were synonymous with terror. Just like how humans hated ghosts, ghosts did not necessarily like humans that much. There were no Taoist sects in the vast Orchid Hill. The reason was simple, because the Lanling king did not like it. It was not that there were no sects that wanted to take over this place. In terms of feng shui, Lanling was a good place with rich spiritual energy. Whether it was cultivators, ghosts, or humans, it was suitable for them to live here. However, no matter which sect it was, they would definitely be obstructed if they wanted to settle down here. With the resistance of tens of thousands of ghosts in the entire Lanling area, even the strongest sect would not be able to take down this tough bone. Over time, the reputation of the Lanling Ghost King spread. Lanling, this hell, also became a place that Taoists would sigh about. Jiang Ling, because of her good talent, she had a fearless personality since she was young. Because she had lived in a sect since she was young, she could only see these few mountains. She could only hear her fellow disciples praising her outstanding talent, and could not help but feel a little smug. When she was 16 years old, she secretly ran to Lanling, while the sect masters were not paying attention. She thought that if she could capture the Lanling Ghost King, who made her master and the others look serious, wouldn't it be a great achievement? She was quite lucky, and actually found the palace where the Lanling Ghost King was. However, how could a little girl who was still wet behind the ears be a match for the famous Lanling Ghost King? The Lanling Ghost King did not like to kill, so she teased Jiang Ling, and chased her out of Lanling. Jiang Ling, was not convinced because of this. After returning to the sect, the elders in the sect heard that she was fearless enough to provoke the Ghost King Lanling. They punished her severely and grounded her for 3 whole years. Jiang Ling, on the other hand, was provoked by Lanling Ghost King's teasing. She was no longer as absent-minded as she used to be. Instead, she began to work hard on her cultivation. 3 years later, she boasted that there was still a big gap between her and the Lanling Ghost King. Following that, she went into seclusion for another 3 years. A total of 9 years. Once again, she went to challenge Ghost King Lanling with her sword. Getting close to nature? Fortunately, it wasn't too bad. There was no need for a ghost to get close to nature. However, it was still much better than using light magic. Gu Xingyin suddenly thought of something. System, do you know who the Phantom Lord Lanling was? The plot only mentioned that she saw her past life through the three-world mirror, after being conferred the title of Principal God. But it didn't specifically mention it. The system replied, Host, you have to work hard on this yourself. The system can't help or inquire about anything that isn't mentioned in the plot. Gu Xingyin sneered. All right, I understand. A soft voice came from outside the hall. Lord Lanling, do you need me to serve you? As a man, the appearance of the man in front of her was enough to make all the women in the world feel ashamed. Of course, this did not include Gu Xingyin. She was a ghost. Seeing Gu Xingyin's cold eyes looking at him, the red-robed man smiled. Between his eyebrows, there was a soul-stirring beauty. Your Highness of the Phoenix clan has lowered yourself to come here. This tree is indeed blessed. Gu Xingyin said lightly. She wasn't wrong. The tree she was standing on was originally just an ordinary tree. But first she, the ghost king Lanling, who was about to ascend to the position of a god, came here. Then the symbol of the divine clan, the auspicious phoenix, stopped by. This was considered a great fortune. Not long after, this tree would become sentient and become a spiritual object. When the man heard her words, he seemed a little surprised. He did not expect that the first thing the ghost king Lanling said when she saw him was about this unremarkable tree. Chapter 1153. It seemed that this was the name of the flamboyant phoenix. Gu Xingyin raised her hand to destroy the feather, but after thinking that the feather of a phoenix was a rare treasure, she kept it in her sleeve. However, she did not know that she had dug a hole for herself. When she realized it in the future, it would be too late. At this moment the system's voice sounded, filled with confusion. Host, I don't understand. Gu Xingyin raised her eyebrows. The system said honestly, why did the host try to kill that phoenix? Gu Xingyin paused. You know who he is? The system replied, yes, host. Strictly speaking, the system and the host's souls are linked, so it can sense some things. For example, that phoenix is the host's lover. Gu Xingyin looked at the system curiously. The soul contract sounded a little novel to him. She knew what it meant. Linking souls meant that if an accident happened to one party, the other party would sense it and bear the damage together. She had signed a contract with the system since she was born, but this was the first time she knew that the two of them were linked souls. However, does the system have a soul too? The system. It seemed that it had accidentally exposed something terrible. It said calmly, the host's authority is insufficient, the system cannot tell you. Gu Xingyin. This system would use this trick every time it did not want to answer. After encountering this phoenix, Gu Xingyin did not have the mood to torment the three Taoist priests. She waved her hand, and the three Taoist priests felt a gust of demonic wind. When they came back to their senses, they realized that they had arrived at the peak of an extremely tall mountain. They could not even see the way down the mountain. Could it be that the person behind this wanted to kill the three of them in this deserted place? The three of them were shocked by their own imagination. Suddenly, a ghostly female voice came from midair. It wanted the three of them to not eat or drink, and recite sutras to expiate the souls of all the ghosts in the Lanling area, for a whole year to atone for their sins. If they were unwilling, they could choose to jump down from here. Gu Xingyin mercifully gave the three of them two options. In the end, the three Taoist priests chose to release the souls of the dead with bitter expressions on their faces. Gu Xingyin turned into a gust of cold wind and returned to her palace. Next, he just had to wait for the supporting female lead to sneak out from the mountain gate to find him. Gu Xingyin was quite interested in the naive Jiang Linger. Lord Lanling. A voice called out from outside the hall. It was Jin's voice. Jin entered the main hall respectfully and knelt down the moment he saw Gu Xingyin. Lord Lanling, I beg you to save Wei Wei. What happened? Gu Xingyin frowned. Jin's face paled. She clenched her teeth and told him everything. Chapter 1154. Wei Wei had been careful not to let the scholar know that she was not human, but there were masters in the human world. When the scholar went out to buy something, he was stopped by a wandering Taoist, who told him that his face was dark, and that he might be haunted by ghosts. The scholar did not believe these things, but the Taoist's words made sense, and he was swayed. He tried the method that the Taoist taught him, and it was incredible. The scholar almost fainted on the spot. However, he managed to hold himself back. Without even asking, he rushed out of the door and found the Taoist, asking him to help him deal with the female ghost in the house. He did not mention anything about the love between him and Weiwei these days. He only said that the female ghost must be here to take his life. When the Taoist heard that it was a ghost that wanted to kill people, he would not let her go. He immediately followed the scholar home. Poor Weiwei, who had prepared a table of food and was waiting for her lover to come home, did not expect that she would be greeted with a bastard. The Taoist was also capable. Weiwei had been with Ghost King Lanling for many years. Although her skills were not superb, she was much more powerful than the average ghost. But she was still no match for the Taoist. Of course, Weiwei was not happy to be betrayed by the lover she cared about. She looked at the scholar with all her might. Why? I've been treating you well with all my heart. Was the sincerity we've been showing during this time all fake? She had shown her ghost's true form. She was dressed in white, and her face was pale. She still looked the same as usual. But the scholar only felt that she was eerie and did not dare to look at her. The scholar hid behind the Taoist, as if the Taoist's existence gave him strength. He said to Weiwei, "Since ancient times, ghosts have always been different. Moreover, who knows why you got close to me? Who knows if your so-called sincerity all these days was just a show to numb me?" Although Weiwei was a ghost, she died at a young age. After becoming a female ghost, she had been serving Ghost King Lanling in the yin-yang world. How could she have seen the evil in people's hearts? She actually didn't know how to refute such ugly and shameless words. He could only glare angrily at the scholar with his eyes wide open. She looked really scary. When the Taoist saw her, he thought that Weiwei was really an evil ghost that wanted to kill people. Weiwei was not a match for the Taoist. She desperately sent a message for help to Ajin, who was like a sister to her, before she was taken into the Taoist's instrument. Ajin thought that she was not a match for the Taoist, which was why she dared to ask Gu Xingyin for help. Although the two sisters had persuaded Lanling for many years, to be honest, they were not close to Ghost King Lanling. This was because Lanling had a cold personality to begin with, and because she was powerful, normal ghosts could not even withstand the pressure from her body, let alone get close to her. The ghosts of Lanling had always been respectful and avoided being close to her. Naturally, Gu Xingyin couldn't just stand by and do nothing. As she instructed Ajin to lead the way, she instructed the system to check on Weiwei's whereabouts. Fortunately, the system's result. The Taoist was not a bloodthirsty person. Although Weiwei showed signs of turning into a demon, she did not have any negative karma. In other words, this female ghost had not killed anyone. He rejected the scholar's suggestion of burning the female ghost. Instead, he locked her in the Taoist's instrument and chanted the mind-cleansing mantra every day, hoping that she would repent in time. 6 chapters in the morning. Gao Lingji could not take it anymore and wanted to sleep. Sleepy, there are 2 chapters left. I'll make up for it tomorrow. Also, I want to ask for monthly votes. I made a wish last week that exceeded 10,000 votes. It has already been fulfilled. In the last week of the month, I still need more than 300 votes to enter the top 5 in the monthly votes category. If you have votes, don't keep them. Vote for Gigi. She is so hungry. Chapter 1155. Even Gu Xingyin was speechless when she saw the Taoist priest's actions. This Taoist priest had a point, right? He sealed Weiwei without knowing the situation, so he could not tell right from wrong. However, after he captured Weiwei, he did not kill her. He did not even take any drastic measures, because she did not have any blood energy. He even chanted the Clear Mind spell to get rid of her inner demons. Gu Xingyin was curious. What kind of Taoist priest could do this? The 2 ghosts moved quickly. Even from afar, Gu Xingyin could sense a righteous Taoist aura. The aura was long and condensed. It was obvious that the other party's cultivation had reached a certain level. It was no wonder that Weiwei was no match for him. Gu Xingyin raised her hand, and a boundary covered the entire courtyard. Who is this Taoist priest? How dare you behave so atrociously in the hell of Lanling? The Taoist priest who had been sitting in the scholar's room opened his eyes in surprise. He did not sense anyone's arrival. It was obvious that this person was more powerful than him. At least, this person's concealment ability was better than his. Gu Xingyi's telegnosis ability passed through the window and landed on the Taoist priest. He was surprisingly young. This Taoist priest looked to be in his 20s. He was wearing a simple green Taoist robe. His hair was fixed with a bamboo hairpin. His face was gentle and delicate. He looked amiable. The Taoist priest pushed open the door and saw Gu Xingyi and Jin standing in the courtyard. He sized up Gu Xingyi and bowed. Are you the Ghost King Lanling? Gu Xingyi snorted. Taoist priest, you know me too? The Taoist priest smiled. Who doesn't know the name of the Ghost King Lanling? Gu Xingyi sneered. Alright, don't flatter me. I'm just here to see what kind of Taoist priest dares to touch my people. The Taoist priest knew something was wrong when he heard Gu Xingyi's tone. He cupped his fists at Gu Xingyi and said, Your subordinate's girl is too vicious. I have no other choice. Too vicious? Gu Xingyi repeated these words and suddenly stretched out her hand. A small gourd from the Taoist priest's waist appeared in Gu Xingyi's hand. The Taoist priest's expression changed. This was his magic tool, but it was powerless against the Ghost King. The strength of this Ghost King was probably even greater than what most people thought. Gu Xingyi's hands shook slightly, and a wisp of green smoke spread out from the gourd, gradually turning into the figure of a woman. It was Wei Wei. At this moment, Wei Wei's eyes were still a little wild. Seeing that she was free, she wanted to pounce out. Wei Wei. The deep and cold voice was like a heavy hammer that slammed into Wei Wei's ears, waking her up from her muddled thoughts. Wei Wei looked at Gu Xingyi next to her, and her face turned pale. She walked in front of her and knelt down. Greetings, Lord. Gu Xingyi looked at her calmly, but she did not ask her to get up. Instead, she turned to the Taoist priest. Does my servant have any sins? The Taoist priest lowered his eyes. No. Does my servant have any evil intentions towards you? The Taoist priest shook his head. No. Did my servant cause any harm to that scholar? The Taoist priest understood what she meant. He shook his head with a bitter smile. No. Before Gu Xingyi could ask the fourth question, the Taoist priest had already bowed to Gu Xingyi. I did not think it through. Please forgive me, Ghost King Lanling. Chapter 1156. After he finished speaking, he bowed to Wei Wei, who was still kneeling on the ground. I did not carefully verify the truth of the matter and acted rashly. Please forgive me. Wei Wei continued to kneel on the ground and ignored him. Gu Xingyi glanced at Wei Wei and said in a low voice, Get up. Wei Wei then obeyed and got up. Her face was pale, and it was obvious that her spiritual body had been injured. Gu Xingyi scanned with her spiritual sense and made a grabbing motion in a certain direction. A strong gust of wind brought the guilty scholar, who was peeping from another room, to the courtyard. Ouch! Gu Xingyi was not in the mood to be gentle with the scholar. He directly threw him to the ground, causing the scholar to fall hard on the ground. The scholar cried out on the ground and saw that no one was paying attention to him. He raised his head carefully in Gu Xingyi's direction. He saw Gu Xingyi's cold silver mask and eyes. Ghost! He got up from the ground and ran behind the Taoist priest. Taoist priest, this ghost must have been summoned by the evil ghost from before. You have to help me. He did not dare to raise his head and only tugged at the Taoist priest's robe. Wei Wei lowered her head and did not look at the man who had been so affectionate with her the day before. Gu Xingyi did not allow her to do so. Wei Wei, raise your head. Wei Wei's body shook when she heard this. She raised her head and looked at Gu Xingyi in confusion. Gu Xingyi's face was expressionless. Don't look at me. Look at that man. She looked calmly at the trembling man, who was hiding behind the Taoist priest in green. Her eyes were full of disdain. Take a good look. Is this the man you fell in love with? He is wretched, irresponsible, and has a heart of stone. Each sentence was heavier than the last. It was like thunder in Wei Wei's ears, and destroyed the last bit of hesitation and hope in her heart. Yes, what was she looking forward to in her heart? Could it be that by not looking and not thinking, she could pretend that everything that had happened did not exist? This man was really a scumbag. Wei Wei's expression hardened as she stared coldly at him. The man turned his head and met Wei Wei's gaze. His eyes flickered and he turned his head away, not daring to face Wei Wei. The last glimmer of hope in Wei Wei's heart was extinguished. Su Lian, I will only ask you one question. Answer me honestly. Wei Wei looked at the scholar without blinking. The scholar hid behind the Taoist priest and replied in a low muffled voice, ask away. She looked at his face and saw that he did not even dare to look at her. She smiled sadly and said, during this period of time, are your feelings for me sincere? Gu Xingyin lowered his eyes. Only a girl like Wei Wei, who had never experienced love before, would ask such a question at a time like this. Su Lian was obviously an extremely selfish person who cherished his own life. The most important thing for such a person would always be himself. Sure enough, the man did not speak for a long time. In the end, he only said, Wei Wei, why did you lie to me? Lie to him? Wei Wei smiled bitterly. It turned out that her feelings for him during this period of time were just a scam in his eyes. She heard something break in her heart. She turned her head, not wanting to look at the man anymore. Gu Xingyin said coldly, you bullied my people. I will not let it go so easily. She looked at Wei Wei. You make your own decision. These two people. She pointed at the scholar and the Taoist priest in green. How should we deal with them? Obviously, she was not going to let them go. Wei Wei was stunned. She had not thought about this. Chapter 1157. She hesitated for a moment and looked at Gu Xingyin pleadingly. Seeing her like this, Gu Xingyin sighed in her heart. What should she do with such a soft personality? Never mind. Lanling Ghost Lord would never allow herself to be taken advantage of, and Wei Wei would not. Let her be the bad guy. She pointed her finger, and the scholar hiding behind the Taoist priest in green was brought in front of Gu Xingyin by invisible shackles. The scholar trembled all over and did not dare to look up at Gu Xingyin. He did not know why, but the female ghost in red did not look scary, but he did not dare to look at her face. He felt that she had an aura that he could not resist. Save me, Taoist priest. He could only plead to the Taoist priest in green behind him. The Taoist priest in green did not have the heart to look at him, but when Gu Xingyin looked at him, he realized that he could not move his body at all. Gu Xingyin looked at him with a half-smile and said, you can't even protect yourself. Don't get involved in other people's business, little Taoist priest. She slowly said, wait until I've dealt with this useless human, then I'll deal with you. The Taoist priest in green smiled bitterly. It seemed that things would not end well today. The scholar's face turned pale. Even the powerful Taoist priest could not do anything to this female ghost in red. Was he going to die today? His thoughts turned, and he finally thought of Wei Wei, who was standing silently beside Gu Xingyin. He raised his head and looked at Wei Wei affectionately. Wei Wei, I didn't do it on purpose. I really like you. It's just that I was blinded when I heard that you weren't human. Can you give me a chance? Gu Xingyin did not move and allowed this human to confess to Wei Wei affectionately. From her point of view as a bystander, this human's acting was very bad. He was just using Wei Wei as his last hope. However, a bystander would see things clearly. Usually, the person in charge would not be able to tell. Gu Xingyin wanted to see Wei Wei's reaction. As expected, Wei Wei's expression changed several times when she heard his words. She turned to look at Gu Xingyin. Lord Lanling. Gu Xingyin's expression was calm as she lightly said, I'll leave the choice in your hands. If you want to release him, I won't make things difficult for him. When the scholar Su Lian heard this, his heart was filled with hope. He looked at Wei Wei with even more sincerity. Wei Wei, I know that I was wrong. When this matter is over, let's start anew and get back together, okay? She lowered her eyes and looked at the man on the ground. It was this man, with such a deep gaze, that made her fall in love with him without any resistance. But it was also this man who looked at her coldly with a pair of eyes that were like the sea, and called her a ghost that harmed people. She suddenly chuckled. Wei Wei was very pretty to begin with. Chapter 1158. Not only was the scholar stunned, even Gu Xingyin looked at Wei Wei in surprise. She did not expect that Weiwei, who had always been elegant and indifferent, would say such words. After Weiwei finished speaking, she did not want to look at the scholar anymore. She turned to look at Gu Xingyin. She said, Lord Lanling, Weiwei has a request. Gu Xingyin was very satisfied with her reaction just now. Her tone could not help but become much gentler. Go ahead. Weiwei lowered her head. I don't want to see that human again. Gu Xingyin chuckled. Okay, I know what you mean. When the Taoist priest in green heard this, his expression changed. When he heard Weiwei say that she did not want to see that scholar, he subconsciously thought that she was going to kill him. He wanted to stop her. This was not because of compassion, but because the ghosts he saw today, whether it was Ghost Lord Lanling or the two female ghosts under her command, were all ghosts with temperament. They were not evil people. There was no need for them to bear the sin of killing because of Su Lian. Ghosts were different from humans. They also needed to cultivate and go through the thunder tribulation. If ghosts were stained with human lives and sins, there were very few who could survive the thunder tribulation. But before he could say anything, Gu Xingyin had already made her move. She drew a line in the air with her hands. A blood-red mysterious rune flew toward Su Lian. It quickly disappeared into his body and disappeared without a trace. Su Lian looked at Gu Xingyin in horror. He did not know what she had done to him. Gu Xingyin seemed to be in a good mood after doing this. The corners of her red lips could not help but curl up. Her ink-black eyes met with Su Lian's frightened eyes, and she actually laughed softly. I am in a good mood today. I will tell you what I did just now. I placed a curse on your body. Don't worry. It won't be a threat to your life. I just need you to do some small things. You have to remember what I'm going to say next. Every day, you have to donate all of your wealth to the poor people around you. You only need to keep enough money for 2 meals of plain steamed buns. You are not allowed to drink alcohol, gamble, flirt, or fight with dogs. You have to study hard every day. You are not allowed to teach students without remuneration. You are not allowed to enter the bureaucracy. You are not allowed to live in a luxurious mansion. You are not allowed to be rich. Gu Xingyin enunciated each and every word, ignoring the scholar's widening eyes, and said the last thing she wanted to say. After 3 days, you are not allowed to enter the Lanling district. If you can't do what I've said, you can experience the consequences yourself. Her sinister voice made the scholar shudder. He didn't want to know the consequences of her words. However, if what she said was true, then he might as well die for all he cared. The scholar stood up shakily and wanted to say something. Gu Xingyin looked at him with disdain. All right, I've said what I wanted to say. You can scram now. You don't have to be an eyesore here. She waved her long sleeves, and the scholar disappeared without a trace. Once again, Gu Xingyin met the Taoist priest's complicated eyes. She smiled and said, Don't worry, I've cast a protective spell on his body. It will ensure that he will live a long life without any illness or pain. The Taoist priest in green. Given the scholar's situation, it would be better for him to die. However, this female ghost did not even give him the chance to die. He secretly made a decision. No matter who he provoked in the future, he would never provoke the Lanling Ghost King. Chapter 1159. Now it's your turn. Gu Xingyin looked at the scholar lazily, as if she was thinking about what to do. The Taoist priest in green stood there calmly. He could neither fight nor run, so he could only stand there and wait for the trial. Gu Xingyin turned to look at Weiwei, who had been silent the whole time. Tell me, how should we deal with this stupid Taoist priest who hurt you? Weiwei looked up at the Taoist priest in green, lowered her head and said softly, Lord Lanling, this Taoist priest did not hurt me. He was just deceived by a scoundrel. She meant that she was letting him go. Gu Xingyin glanced at the Taoist priest in green, and suddenly said, Since Weiwei is pleading for mercy, I will not say anything. Weiwei was imprisoned in the magic weapon by you, and her origin was hurt. Little Taoist priest, I heard that you Taoists have a way to calm the mind, so I will leave Weiwei to you. You must help her recover her lost strength. After she finished speaking, she turned into a ray of light and disappeared into the sky. Only a faint voice was left in their ears. I will come and see the results after a while. Wei Wei and the Taoist priest in green stood awkwardly in the courtyard. Wei Wei was a little embarrassed. Lord Lanling was just saying. She would not have the time to investigate. I will find a place to rest for a while. No. The Taoist priest in green smiled gently and looked at Wei Wei's beautiful face. Lord Lanling is right. I hurt you by accident, so I should be responsible for your recovery. Gu Xingyin brought Ajin back to the yin-yang world. After Ajin left, Gu Xingyin went into seclusion. She had to improve her strength quickly. Otherwise, in the original plot, the 69 heavenly tribulations would take away half of her life. When Gu Xingyin woke up from seclusion again, she did not wake up naturally. Someone had violated the restriction she had set outside the hall. Gu Xingyin opened her eyes, and the system in her mind told her that Jiang Ling was here. Her spiritual sense instantly spread out and landed on the little girl holding the sword outside. Jiang Ling was 16 years old. Her face was pure and beautiful, and her light blue dress made her look like a lotus flower that had just emerged from the water. A girl of this age, even if she didn't put on any makeup, would still have the aura and beauty of a rising sun. As expected of the name Ling sensing it with rapt attention, Jiang Ling's current strength was roughly at a Jin's level. Gu Xingyin could only say that she was able to break through the layers of obstacles in the yin-yang world and come to his palace without anyone noticing. Coincidence was indeed powerful. Hee. At this moment, Jiang Ling was cautiously walking outside the hall. This time, she secretly took the concealment magic tool from her sect and came alone to find the legendary ghost king Lan Ling. Chapter 1160. Jiang Ling couldn't help but open her eyes wide, as if she was stunned by the person who slowly appeared from the darkness. Even the sword in her hand was unconsciously put down. What a beautiful person! She sighed in her heart and immediately woke up. No, this was the yin-yang world, the lair of ghost king Lan Ling. How could there be someone here? The person in front of her was definitely a female ghost. But Jiang Ling couldn't help but secretly look at Gu Xingyin. This female ghost was really beautiful. Gu Xingyin looked at Jiang Ling. The other party's eyes were very clear, and the gaze she looked at her with undisguised shock and admiration. No one would feel disgusted by this gaze, including Gu Xingyin. She smiled and said, "Where did this human girl come from? This is not a place you should come to." Jiang Ling tried to straighten her expression and make her expression become serious. "I'm here to find someone." "No, I'm here to find a ghost," she said with a straight face. Gu Xingyin held back her laughter. Why didn't the original plot mention that Jiang Ling was such a cute girl? She followed Jiang Ling's words and asked, "Who are you looking for?" Jiang Ling looked at her with some vigilance. "Why are you asking so much?" Gu Xingyin said with a smile, "I've lived here for many, many years. The ghost you're looking for I definitely know." Jiang Ling still didn't say anything. She was a person with principles. How could she tell this female ghost her purpose just because she was beautiful? Gu Xingyin saw her like this and really wanted to pinch her little face. She said, "Actually, even if you don't say it, I know who you're looking for." Jiang Ling didn't fall for it. "Then tell me, who am I looking for?" Gu Xingyin replied quickly, "You're looking for the famous ghost king Lan Ling, right?" Jiang Ling's eyes widened. "How do you know?" Gu Xingyin finally couldn't help but laugh. "There's nothing in this world that I don't know." Jiang Ling felt that the person in front of her was very mysterious. She couldn't help but ask, "Since you know who I'm looking for, can you take me to him?" Gu Xingyin purposely said, "Why would I bring you to Ghost King Lan Ling? Furthermore, how do you know if the Lan Ling Ghost King I brought you to is the real Lan Ling Ghost King?" She was deliberately making things difficult for Jiang Ling. Who would have thought that Ling would actually think about it carefully before nodding and saying, "You're right. My master told me that if I ask for help, I have to prepare a gift. Although you're not human, I'm sure the logic is the same." She looked around and took out an exquisite jade buckle from her waist. "This jade buckle is a present that my master personally found for my coming-of-age ceremony. It's a Dharma artifact that can nurture spiritual bodies. It should be very useful for a ghost like you." As she spoke, she raised her head and asked Gu Xingyin, I'll use this to exchange for information about Ghost King Lan Ling. How about that? She was very generous, Gu Xingyin thought in her heart. As for your second question, Jiang Ling frowned. Jiang Ling frowned and seemed a little troubled. Then, she looked at Gu Xingyin's face and suddenly became clear. You're so good-looking. You definitely won't lie to me. Gu Xingyin. What kind of logic was that if she was beautiful, she wouldn't lie? Gu Xingyin was stunned for a rare moment. However, she quickly regained her calm expression and didn't even notice Jiang Ling. Chapter 1161. Jiang Ling only saw a figure flash in front of her. The red-clothed female ghost, who was several feet away from her, suddenly appeared beside her. She didn't have the cold feeling of an ordinary ghost. Jiang Ling even smelled a faint fragrance from her body. She didn't know what kind of perfume it was, but it smelled very good. Jiang Ling was a little greedy. She took a deep breath and completely ignored the other party's unusual speed. How could an ordinary ghost have that kind of speed? You really think I'm pretty? Gu Xingyin bent down to Jiang Ling. She was taller than the other party. When she bent down slightly, she was face to face with Jiang Ling. Their faces were only an inch apart. Facing Gu Xingyin's cold and charming face at such a close distance, Jiang Ling's face blushed. She completely forgot that the other party was a ghost she hated. Her mind was full of paste, and she only felt that something was beating fast in her heart. After a while, she stepped back a few steps as if she had stepped on something. When she felt that the distance between her and the other party was normal, she looked at Gu Xingyin with a red face. You ghosts are all like this. Like this. She wanted to find a suitable adjective, but she suddenly found that she was at a loss for words. After a long time, Jiang Ling finally squeezed out a complete sentence. Are you so passionate? Gu Xingyin looked at her and raised the corner of her mouth. No, I'm only passionate about good-looking girls. Jiang Ling's face, which had just cooled down, turned red again because of her words. Obviously, the other party was a female ghost. Why was she blushing? Gu Xingyin looked at the other party's red face and thought that it should be nice to touch, but she looked at Jiang Ling regretfully. Forget it. She would probably be scared if she touched her. Jiang Ling took a few deep breaths and asked seriously, Do you really know where Ghost King Lan Ling is? Gu Xingyin nodded. Jiang Ling's eyes lit up. Then can you take me to find him? Gu Xingyin pretended to hesitate. It's not impossible. She looked at Jiang Ling's joyful eyes and asked, But why are you looking for Ghost King Lan Ling? Fortunately, Jiang Ling was not that stupid. She said, Just take me there. Gu Xingyin said casually. Then do you know where we are? Ling was just randomly found. How could he know? Gu Xingyin said. The hall in front of you is Ghost King Lan Ling's palace. Jiang Ling's expression turned solemn when she heard this. However, she quickly realized that something was amiss. Just now, the red-dressed female ghost seemed to have come from this hall. Jiang Ling looked at Gu Xingyin suspiciously. Gu Xingyin allowed her to size him up. The girl finally realized that something was wrong. Unexpectedly, the next moment, Jiang Ling looked at her with understanding. Chapter 1162. Hearing Gu Xingyin's words, Jiang Ling's first reaction was to look behind her. There was nothing behind her. Jiang Ling turned around and looked at Gu Xingyin suspiciously. You're lying to me. There's no Lan Ling Ghost King. As she spoke, her eyes suddenly widened. She stared at Gu Xingyin in disbelief. Gu Xingyin looked at her calmly. A possibility flashed through Jiang Ling's mind. She couldn't help but swallow her saliva. That Lan Ling Ghost King, is it a man or a woman? She looked at Gu Xingyin and asked. Gu Xingyin didn't answer. She only asked back. What do you think? Jiang Ling's body tensed up. In this mysterious place, there was a beautiful woman whose strength couldn't be determined. Also, she had only heard of the Lan Ling Ghost King. She heard her own voice saying dryly. Legend has it that the Lan Ling Ghost King likes to wear red clothes and a sinister silver mask on his face. People can't see his face clearly. Her words came to a halt. This was because Gu Xingyin had taken out an extremely delicate silver mask at some point in time and gently covered his face with it. She looked at Jiang Ling with a smile in her eyes. Like this. A gust of wind came out of nowhere and blew her messy black hair. Against the silver mask, there was a murderous intent. Jiang Ling couldn't help but take 2 steps back. She used the sword in her hand to block in front of her. She felt that all this development was really out of her expectations. "You're the Lanling Ghost King?" Jiang Ling's voice was a little sharp because of her nervousness. Gu Xingyin felt that it was about time. She put away the smile on her face. In an instant, the aura that she deliberately restrained poured out and swept towards Jiang Ling. Jiang Ling couldn't help but take a few steps back. So strong. She looked at the woman in red in front of her in shock. She still looked the same. But at this time, Jiang Ling could no longer connect her with the beautiful woman she saw before. So strong, Jiang Ling had never felt such a strong aura even from her master. This feeling was like a harmless little beast raising its head and staring at an ancient ferocious beast whose eyes were closed and whose aura was like a mountain. The other party was like an insurmountable mountain. In front of the other party, she couldn't even summon the slightest thought of going against the other party. "It's real. So, young lady, what brings you here to see me?" Gu Xingyin's slow voice rang in Jiang Ling's ears. Jiang Ling was speechless. What was she going to say? He said that he came here to punish evil and uphold justice. He wanted to find Ghost King Lan Ling and have a duel with her. It would be best if he could defeat her and make a name for himself. How stupid was she to think that she could challenge the Lanling Phantom Lord, who ruled over tens of thousands of ghosts in the Lanling district. Chapter 1165. Feng Lin held the woman in red in his arms and sighed in satisfaction, without leaving a trace. He looked down again and felt that the red mask on Gu Xingyin's face was really an eyesore. He reached out and gently stroked it. The mask, which was as strong as a high-grade magic tool, instantly shattered and fell down. "Gu Xingyin, does this mask have a grudge against you?" However, her character was set as the cold and beautiful Ghost King Lan Ling, so she could only glare at him coldly, and then said in a cold voice, "What do you want to do?" Feng Lin smiled gently. "I want to hug you, isn't it obvious?" As soon as he finished speaking, he met the angry glare of the person in his arms. "Don't look at me like that. I won't be able to resist kissing you." Feng Lin didn't care about the threat in her eyes. "Gu Xingyin." She was still glaring at him. So the phoenix who did what he said leaned over and kissed her. While kissing, he didn't forget to imprison the movements of the person in his arms. The most shameful thing was that after this phoenix took advantage of her, he still felt wronged. He frowned and seemed to be very unhappy looking at Gu Xingyin. "Why? You smiled so happily at that human girl. Don't think I didn't see that you were deliberately seducing her." His tone was indignant, as if he was really angry. "Gu Xingyin, was this phoenix retarded?" She didn't believe that he couldn't see that she was playing with Ling. Feng Lin did see it, but even so, he still felt unhappy. Because Lan Ling hugged Ling and used her hand to lift her chin. The two of them were so close. The world said that the phoenix was the most beautiful and auspicious beast. But few people knew that the phoenix was very possessive of its mate. Yes, mate. Feng Lin, who had been single for thousands of years, couldn't move his eyes away from the first time he saw Gu Xingyin in the wild forest. He knew that feeling. It was the legendary love at first sight. He had seen countless beauties, but no beauty could give him such a strong feeling. One look was 10,000 years. One look was a lifetime. He had decided on her. Feng Lin looked at Gu Xingyin affectionately. "Lan Ling, you said that you will give extra preferential treatment to beautiful things. What about me?" Speaking of this, he seemed to be quite proud. "I don't know how many times stronger my human form is than that human girl's. I dare say that there is no one in this world who can compare to me. Even if there is, there are only a few." This was the phoenix's confidence. His bragging wasn't over yet. "My phoenix form is even more dazzling. In the entire phoenix race, you won't be able to find a phoenix that's more beautiful than me." The two of them were still hugging each other tightly. Feng Lin hugged Gu Xingyin and pressed his cheek against the side of her face. He muttered in a low voice, "Look, I'm so good looking and I like you so much. Do you want to consider me?"